Welcome back, and we are following up on the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in California and what that means for the real estate market here in Greenville. Don Swearingen joins me. He's the senior partner of Connie Rice and Partners at Keller Williams Greenville, which is a real estate agency. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Carrie, very much.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, they might be a little confused. A bank closure in California, what does that have to do with our mortgage rates, with what's going on here in Greenville? So can you briefly explain that?
Absolutely, that's a great question, and I know it's on the top of a lot of folks' minds. And I've asked around a lot today in anticipation of thinking about that, and really very little impact. We don't think there's going to be much impact at all. It's going to be more of a confidence level of investors, confidence level of institutions, and confidence level of home buyers and sellers. So it's more of a confidence game than it is an impact game. It's going to affect interest rates too, though.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to pull up some of those interest rates because you sent me some. So hopefully we have those numbers that we can pull up, because my understanding that some of the interest rates dropped yesterday. So right now, this is according to Lend First Mortgage. We're looking at a 30-year for 6.625, 15-year 6%. I know there was at one point we were almost at 7% 30-year mortgage rates. So explain what happened yesterday into today and why.
Well, what seems to have happened was last week, you're right, there were around 7, hovering around 7, and I believe that it's kind of baked in the cake already, that reduction, because there's some investor confidence right now, and there's some thinking that because of what's going on in the marketplace, the Fed might not raise rates or tamper with them too much at the 21st, 22nd meeting next week. So they're baking it in already. They're thinking, well, if they don't do anything, we should be more confident in lower interest rates. That's kind of what's happening. Because
the fall that we've had, that is the biggest decrease in interest rates we've had in a long time, right?
Huge. Couple, 2 or 3 years. It's the largest decrease in one day in a long time, which is really, it's a welcome sign in the marketplace. When you get rates that low, you'll get increasing demand from buyers. They'll get off the fence and start moving out.
And some people might be confused because the federal interest rate hasn't changed in the last few days. So can you explain, talk about that a little bit, and how that sometimes correlates with the mortgage rate, but sometimes doesn't?
Well, it's it's almost like a rocket science a little bit. But when you get into the weeds, there's a yield, which is really normally it's about 1.7 difference between mortgage rates and the T-bill rate. That yield is stretched out to almost 4 right now. So interest rates are really, and that's a sign of investor confidence. When those rates have such a big yield, there's little confidence in the market. So investors will take their money and put it somewhere else. Now that they're coming back, you'll see that yield start tightening up, and that's really what we want to see. If that yield tightened up a little bit and we were back to normal, we'd be in the 4.5% to 5% mortgage rates.
And so are you expecting mortgage rates to continue to come down?
Boy, I wish I knew the answer to that question. I'd be out there with it. I think the trend has been down, the trend has been up. I think what we're looking at is a volatile market. I think the overall trend in the next year, year and a half is going to be down, but it's going to take inflation has to be caught under control. That's one of the big factors.
And what does that mean for home buyers right now? Do you think they should act now? Do you think they should wait a little bit to see if it comes down a little bit more?
Boy, it's such a personal decision.
That's
just a really personal decision. We always encourage home buyers to make the right decision for them. It's affordability. It hinges on affordability. If a buyer can afford it and it makes sense, buy now. But if you need to wait for rates, if you need to save some money, then do that. We encourage people to come in and talk about it. Let's build a game plan and a timeline so when the time is right, we can move.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with federal interest rates, because the last thing we heard, they were going to continue going up, but now Jerome Powell might have to. You think he might have to force them down?
Well, which is the bigger problem, inflation or the bank collapse or saving the investors? He'll have to figure out which path he wants to take. The odds are, and this is what if you read Las Vegas odds makers, they're not going to make any changes to the rate on the 21st, 22nd, but that's not for sure. It's about 50-50 chance.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you so much for joining us, Don.
Sure. Thanks, Gary.
All right, we'll
Appreciate
toss
you.
it to Kendra and weather.